Steve Dangle here. We're going to try a one-taker here on the SDPN YouTube channel because it is August. Everyone is off. No one's here to edit the video, but there is huge hockey news. A really big piece of hockey news, and it's not Austin Matthews getting named captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. That happened yesterday, or rather will formally happen tomorrow. But today, the day started with a trade. A weird trade. It was between the Pittsburgh Penguins and the St. Louis Blues. Now, you know that I love this deal if you've been listening for a while because Kyle Dubas loves a couple things. His guys, he loves his guys. We'll give them a trade, contract extension, whatever you want. And he also, we've established this over a year ago, I think. Kyle Dubas, GM and president of the Pittsburgh Penguins, loves trading with Doug Armstrong of the St. Louis Blues. Since he became a GM in the NHL, it is his most common trading partner. The trade was this. The Pittsburgh Penguins receive a 2026 second-round pick and a 2025 third-round pick. The St. Louis Blues acquire a 2025 second-round pick, their own, from a previous deal, and a 2026 fifth-round pick. This deal makes no sense in a vacuum. In a vacuum. And at the time, you're like, okay, so the Penguins get a second and a third for a second and a fifth. Penguins win. What are the St. Louis Blues doing? That doesn't make any sense. It's just weird gambling. Like maybe the Blues think that that second round pick in 2025 will be more valuable than the 2026 one, unless they're getting that pick so that they can do an offer sheet. But surely they're not doing an offer sheet. There's only been like, what, 8 offer sheets over the last 15 years, and only 2 of them have actually worked on Dustin Penner and Jesperi Kotkaniemi? There's no way they're actually going to do it. You're right. The St. Louis Blues are not giving up 1 offer sheet. They are giving out 2 to the same team at the same time. Absolutely wild. The St. Louis Blues, you got to hand it to them, number one, for making it exciting in August, actually giving us hockey news. But if you're a hockey fan, you have to give it to the St. Louis Blues. Well, maybe if you cheer for the Edmonton Oilers, I suppose you don't. But their press release on this is the best one I think I've ever seen from a team in the cap era. They explain everything, the dollar amounts, why they did what they did all day long. So they have given offer sheets to defenseman Philip Broberg and to forward Dylan Holloway. This is from their press release. Broberg, 23. Does anyone need a 23-year-old defenseman? You probably do. Broberg, 23, has played 81 games for the Oilers over the last 3 seasons, registering 2 goals and 11 assists after being selected in the first round, 8th overall in the 2019 draft. The Örebro, Sweden native has also played 20 career playoff games for Edmonton, including 10 games during their run to the 2024 Stanley Cup Final, which he posted 2 goals and an assist. You might remember he had a breakout Stanley Cup Final. He looked really good. The offer to Broberg is for, this is big, for a 2-year contract at $4,580,917 per year. The maximum offer, why that amount? Why that specific amount? Because that is the maximum offer that would require a second-round draft pick as compensation. So, if the Philip Broberg offer sheet works, it's only going to cost the Blues a second-round pick. Ridiculous. Holloway, 22, even younger, has participated in 89 games for the Oilers since entering the league in the 22-23 season as a former first-round pick. 14th overall. This is an 8th overall and 14th overall pick for the Edmonton Oilers. This is not nothing in the 2020 draft. He tallied 9 goals and 9 assists during those 2 seasons, which, not very much. The Calgary, Alberta native and University of Wisconsin product has also played 26 career playoff games. Including 25 during Edmonton's journey to the 2024 Stanley Cup Final, in which he contributed 5 goals and 2 assists. There's another guy who performed very well in the Stanley Cup Final, especially in those Oiler comeback games. The offer to Holloway is a 2-year contract at $2,290,457 per year, the maximum offer that would require a third-round pick as compensation. We'll get to the rest of it in a sec. Listen, has Broberg had the most amazing start to his career? No, but he's a 23-year-old 8th overall pick. Has Dylan Holloway had the most amazing start to his NHL career? No, but he's a 22-year-old 14th overall pick. And the cost for the St. Louis Blues to get these guys, besides their cap room, which they have, is a second-round pick and a third-round pick. Do you think the Edmonton Oilers would accept that trade if the St. Louis Blues called them up and made that offer? No! Not in a million years, no. A second-round pick for Philip Broberg and a third-round pick for Dylan Holloway. There might have been a time where a second-round pick for Philip Broberg would have got it done, maybe at the beginning of this season when he allegedly requested a trade and then allegedly didn't. Maybe, but after the Stanley Cup playoffs that he had in Stanley Cup final, no way, not a snowball's chance in hell. Now, the St. Louis Blues know that you might have seen that trade from earlier today and gone, gosh gee willikers, I don't understand it. Here they are, explaining it. To satisfy the required compensation of the offer sheets, should Edmonton choose to decline their right of first refusal, so Edmonton has a chance to match these offer sheets, the Blues have completed a trade with the Pittsburgh Penguins to reacquire their second-round draft pick in 2025, acquired via trade, and acquire Pittsburgh's fifth-round selection in 2026. The Penguins will receive St. Louis's second-round pick in 2026 and Ottawa's 2025 third-round draft selection. Dude! This is awesome, and this is exciting. Again, not if you're an Edmonton Oilers fan. There's a few extra factors here. Well, why doesn't Edmonton just match it? A little over $4 million for Philip Broberg. Yeah, it's kind of expensive, especially for a guy who hasn't played that much, but he'll probably grow into the contract. The guy whose contract this reminds me of a lot is Rasmus Sandin, the contract that he got after a trade out of Toronto, and he goes to Washington. They give him $4.5 million, whatever it was, young left-handed defenseman. He's growing into that contract. Dylan Holloway, he hasn't performed very much, but a 14th overall pick. He's 22. Again, a little over $2 million. He's probably going to grow into that contract. Neither of these offers is outrageous. Sorry for that little beep. Ding on my phone. Neither of these contract offers are ridiculously expensive. They're probably more expensive than Edmonton would want. But here's the thing. There's the Blues side of it, and there's the Oilers side of it. The Blues side of it, this is the perspective given by Jeremy Rutherford, who covers the St. Louis Blues on Twitter. He posted words from Doug Armstrong that he said in June. In June, here's Armstrong on the possibility of offer sheets. There's a perception that offer sheets are taboo by managers. Offer sheets that don't work are taboo by managers. Oh, cheeky. That's the assessment we all make. I think teams are more than willing to at least explore that now. Armstrong continued. The cap has gone up, but a lot of that money has already been spent by the teams. Hold on to that. If you have a restricted free agent that is in an uncomfortable spot, that's at least my job, or it's at least my job, my responsibility to assess, is that an option that we should explore? And apparently the answer was yes. So here's the thing. The Edmonton Oilers are over $300,000 over the salary cap already heading into next season. Broberg and Holloway combined will be, I believe, over $6.5 million combined. So you take that $300,000, the amount of money that Broberg and Holloway are going to get at the same time, it'll put the Edmonton Oilers something like $7 million over the salary cap. Now, you are allowed to go over the salary cap in the summer by, I believe, 10%. The salary cap is $88 million. 10% of that is 8.8. So in theory, the Edmonton Oilers could match these offer sheets, keep Philip Broberg, keep Dylan Holloway, and just go about their business. And then they have it's like a month, 6 weeks, something like that, before the season begins to figure out their cap situation. Unloading something like $6.5–7 million is a lot easier said than done. One thing they can do to alleviate this was tweeted out by Ryan Rashog out in Alberta for TSN. My sense on Kane, as in Evander, is that surgery is the most likely course of action. Process is still underway to determine exactly what needs to be done, as there were several significant issues he was dealing with. He is not likely to be ready for training camp, and it could be several months into the season before he's available. So that might seem like cap shenanigans, and maybe it is. More likely what it is the Edmonton Oilers, Stan Bowman, Jeff Jackson, all of them, were sitting there and going, all right, we have an incredible team. We have a really good team. We were a goal away, or 2 goals away, from the 2024 Stanley Cup. We were Game 7 in the Stanley Cup final. We're right there. We can basically afford the team that we have with a little bit of cap finagling. We have some time to answer the Evander Kane question. We have some time to answer the Philip Broberg question. We have some time to answer the Dylan Holloway question, because these were all things that they needed to figure out. What are we going to do with Evander Kane's injury? How are we going to sign Philip Broberg? How are we going to sign Dylan Holloway? Well, guess what? You now have to figure it out all at once. You have 7 days to figure out Philip Broberg, whether you're going to keep him or not. You have 7 days to figure out Dylan Holloway, whether you're going to keep him or not. They might be able to keep one of these guys. It's looking not all that likely they're going to be able to keep both. And if they do keep both, they're going to have to trade from off of their roster. They're going to have to find something to do with Evander Kane. Even putting him on long-term injury reserve might not solve all that ails them. So all of a sudden, Stan Bowman, who's been out of the game for a couple years now, his first task as Edmonton Oilers GM, besides that press conference, is going to be to figure out a position that I can't think of any other GM ever having been in, or at very least not in a couple decades. Getting offer sheeted 2 guys at the exact same time. Did this happen to him when he was in Chicago? Like, I remember Antti Niemi was offer sheeted, and I want to say, was it Nicholas Halmerson at the same time? Still, I don't think it was by the same team. Wasn't that the Blues and the Sharks? Oh, man. Like, there have been so few offer sheets in recent memory, and the vast majority of them have failed. This is a GM in Doug Armstrong looking at a vulnerable rival GM and a vulnerable rival team, a Western Conference team, and going, I have the cap space. I have the picks. I have the need for these good young players, and I don't want my rival to have them. They can't afford them. Why don't I just take them? And even if I don't end up getting them, why don't I just make their lives a little more difficult and a little bit more miserable? Dude, we should be cheering this on. Again, if you're an Edmonton Oilers fan and you don't like this, I fully get it. I fully understand it. But we need more of this in the sport. We need more competitiveness in these front offices. And Doug Armstrong might have a point. Listen, the reason you haven't seen more of these offer sheets is a lot of them suck. But this is a rare situation where you could get 2 young players, 2 top 15 picks, an 8th and a 14th overall pick that are 22 and 23 years old for a 2nd and a 3rd round pick. Even if they don't flourish, even if these guys don't turn into the sort of player that you would expect out of a 8th overall and a 14th overall pick, a 2nd and a 3rd is nothing. Think of all the trade deadline deals and deals at the draft, especially the trade deadline though, that you will see teams giving out a 2nd and a 3rd round pick for some dude named Bicep McGrunt, who's going to end up playing 12 minutes a night for you down the stretch and in the playoffs just to cross-check guys and get suspended. Dude, to get Broberg and Holloway for a 2nd and a 3rd, and yeah, the cap space, but whatever. You have the cap space. To get those guys for a 2nd and a 3rd, if they're able to pull it off, is a heist. And now, all of a sudden, this quiet season, this season where all these hockey people all around the world, the players, the executives, the insiders, they're all on cottage docks, just looking at water that's flat as glass. And the St. Louis Blues sent a nice big tidal wave onto their shores. And we could see a nice little flurry of hockey action over the next little bit. I'm jacked for it. What do you think? Let me know in the comment box down below. For now, that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends. I'm gonna spend the next half hour taking deep breaths. This is much easier to do with jump cuts.